we are now. We're actually $70,000 better than budget in the golf loss, better than budget. And that's based on the board making the adjustment. And we're $260,000 better than budget for the whole community. So we make adjustments, and I agree with you, Ken, we make adjustments. So in January, if we end up at 230, we're going to make an adjustment in the budget. We're not going to run all year at a loss.
But that's my point. And that's what my argument, not my argument, my discussion is fine. If you come up $100,000 short in January, I think you now have a tight budget for the year. I think in the past you had some loose money in there, for example, legal fees, you had 100,000, 168,000 in legal fees, you spent 40. So you got 120 to cover a loss.
Right.
Right now, I think you got a tight budget. There is no transition fund to reach. There is no legal fees to reach. I think they fixed the water. We're not going to give free water anymore. So I don't see in January, because I asked, can we raise the dues on January 15th if this comes up? Once the budget's passed, the dues are good for a year. If you're 100 grand short, where are you going to get the money?
Contingency would be 65,000 of it right there. We cover it. We have a contingency fund just for emergencies. In the administrative budget is $65,000. Actually, it was 55 or 56, but we decided I had 10,000 in there for marketing, and I wanted a chance to put a marketing plan together for the board, so I moved it back into contingency until the marketing committee and I can put a marketing plan together. Then I'm going to bring it forward for the board to see if they agree with management and the committee and agree to approve a marketing. You're talking, I believe I think it's 3% of the whole budget is $10,000.
So we have, well, I like to use the word fat. We have
No, it's not fat. No,
fat.
We've had contingency budget somewhere ranging between 50 and 70,000 every year in this budget because you don't know. I'll give you a perfect example. We budgeted for it now, but we didn't before. 2 years ago, we had a sinkhole open up on number 2, if you remember that.
Yeah.
There was no money in the budget for sinkholes. So you go into the contingency budget, you tap the money out of there, and then now there's a sinkhole line item with 35,000 in it. But that's what it's for. If an emergency pops up, also contingency could be used for the replacing the trees. It's the board's, it's not a slush fund, it's an emergency fund for the board to have on a $5 million budget. You're talking 1% of the budget is in the contingency. So,
I'll buy into that.
Yeah, so that's what it's for.
I'll buy into
It's
that.
for the board and management to have flexibility to address issues that come up throughout the year that were not anticipated.
See, my real, one of the things, I liked September's. I kind of liked the proposal you made in September on round 3. And when I did all my little maths, I said, okay, out of $145 a month, $13 is now going to golf. And then the one I got last week, it dropped to 9, and I kind of said, well, where are you getting the money from? You had a prediction of a certain number of memberships, and we were going to raise this much money for golf. And all of a sudden, now we got another 17 members, and we're going to get 20,000 more rounds of golf for $20,000 more dollars. And I'm saying, this is unrealistic, not in these times. Now I know there's a contingency to cover it, but I still think when we start showing, as McLadry came out, we had a golf community against a non-golf community. And I said, ooh, this is getting better. Now all of a sudden, in my opinion, we're budgeting that we are budgeting for too much revenue coming in for golf. And we're going to run into the same situation, golf's losing money. And now the non-golfers are going to say, well, this, and the golfers, and we're going to start spreading the community away again.
Ken, it's an amenity. I think
That's right.
one thing McLadry pointed out, it's an amenity. And they said to fund it up to $41 is the average. We'll never do that. That's ridiculous, you know, for this community to fund that much of an amenity. But it's an amenity, and we're trying to approach it as an amenity and not a profit center. So I don't think the community's doing this again. Because this year, we budgeted for a $156,000 loss in golf through the first 10 months, and it's approximately $80,000. So we've proved that we can make adjustments throughout the year. At least management team has approved over the last 3 years that we can make adjustments every year without the budget year. We beat the budget significantly every year, and it's not slush money. It's good management. It's people not spending money if you don't need to spend it.
I think we're looking at 2 different points here. Beating the budget is one thing, and estimating too much revenue coming in is another point.
But
I agree you're going to make the budget because you have a contingency fund.
Right.
I think you're going to have enough money just made off this bar to lower our rates, for God's sake. There's so much coming in. So I admire all those things, but I still cannot see saying, all right, the pro shop is going to bring in $1 million when realistically it should only be 900,000.
It's actually 900 is what we're budgeting.
I'm using the round
Right.
figures.
If I may say something that I haven't heard you say, I haven't heard you speak of the people who profess to leave Heritage Pines to play golf on a regular basis, a significant number. And we have had verbal commitments from them that said, you know, I'm very excited about these rates. I plan to come back to Heritage Pines to play. And we're anticipating revenue from the people who pay as you go. They may become members of a different members, of a seasonal or 9 or annual. But we're anticipating that we're going to see an additional revenue from that group of people. And the other thing I hear you saying is that we did lose members last year. There were some medical issues. There was a review of the people that we lost last year. And of those people, we have been told, I personally have not heard them say it, but we have been told that a significant number of those people plan to come back to golf, that their issues are resolved.
What happened is when we got the 40 people that resigned last year, some of them just simply couldn't play golf any longer. But the lion's share of it, probably approximately 80% of them were medical issues like hip replacement or knee replacement or elbow or shoulder injuries and things like that. And they felt like signing up on the 15th and rolling the dice when the doctors hadn't confirmed what they were going to do and how long their rehab was going to be. So the finance committee took it upon themselves, the chairs. They called every single individual on that list and found out that, yes, there was approximately 80% that were medical, and of that 80, much more than half of it, approximately 75%, were rehabilitation issues, getting new knees and new hips and getting shoulders repaired and things like that. It wasn't, I'm never going to play golf again. And so what they've said, they've contacted them again and said, what is your intention? And they said, our intention now, people need to vote with their wallets when it comes to prepaid. We'll know on the 15th, like you said. But the intention of at least half of those people, which is about 15 of the people, were to come back this year.
How many?
15 of the 40 to come back this year. If you look, we're at 235 this year for prepaid. You add 15 to that, and that's not rolling the dice saying new people will do it. And if you just add those 15, there's your 250.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Did anybody do an analysis of the people that are not coming back? For example, there's 2 of them that passed away. They're not coming back, that's for sure. So what about the 235? How many of them are we losing 15 and we're still at the even base?
But it's an estimate. We're just like last year. We do this budget, and it's finalized, it's round 8. The rounds he's talking about, we put rounds on there because we keep updating it as we get closer. We try to make it as accurate as possible. Remember, this budget gets approved 2 months before it ever starts.
I know.
You know, I mean, I won't say that.
What came out of the finance committee,
The government.
this is just a suggestion from your staff to the finance committee. I thought it was a very good one. We know it's a shame that we don't have the golf season from October 1st to October 1st, so that you would have the exact numbers of how many people would be coming back before the budget had to be approved.
Right. That's correct.
Now, that's why they put that letter out, not just to get stickers, to try and get an idea of what we're going to do. Is there any way next year that you can get these commitments early enough that you can prepare a budget without just guesswork, or you can using last year's figures?
Only doing that.
Makes sense to me.
Well, a lot of people, I'm not speaking for everybody, but a lot of people I don't think want to make that commitment in October for the following year.
Your insurance runs the same way.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, you don't get insurance until next year, so you're just doing a guess, right?
Yeah.
Your best
Could we
guess?
run our season October to October?
No, you can't.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
revenue-wise, it's difficult. You'd have 3 months in the
Policy does.
previous year and 9 months of revenue, and then you'd have the next 3 months of we run a fiscal year from January to December, so you'd have the last quarter, which would be sort of a crapshoot. You know, you wouldn't know. So doing the annual budget wouldn't help you. What it could hurt you, what if 250 people signed up this year in October, and next year only 200 signed up? You got a whole quarter where you're going to be 50 players short. You know, so.
May I? Ken, we went through this morning, and I had the same questions that you have. You know, you're projecting this, you're guessing how many you're going to have, but, you know, a lot of thought went into it, and again, we're hoping that the people that have said they will now stay here, we're just hoping they do come back. It is some guesswork, but a lot of people have put a lot of thought into this, and we just have to wait and see. But I did have the same questions. You don't know, and we won't know for sure.
Yeah, it's our best educated guess. The thing, Janice felt, and I felt for a long time, for instance, that the trackage was very unfair. That $600 for a single and then $685 for a double, that there was no equity there. And that's one of the reasons I pushed so hard to get the single trackage dropped down to $400. It's 400 now for a single and 600, which is equitable. It's half of the single for the double. The other thing that presents is, let's say Mr. Gray doesn't want to be prepaid, but he plays more than 67 rounds of golf here at Heritage Pines, and he wants to use his own cart. That option's on the table now. It wasn't before. But if you play 67 rounds of golf, it makes sense to buy trackage, pay the $400 if you have a cart, and use your own cart when you play golf. You can do that and still pay as you go. But you just don't pay the cart fee. You don't use our carts. And so there's a lot of different options now that we've lowered these prices. Janice and I have talked at length about the 9-hole membership and how unfair it was. And so based on the discussions that we had, when it came time to do the budget, Kevin McChrystal and I the management does it first, and Kevin McChrystal and I take it, then we take it to Finance Committee. And we told him that was the logic. We felt it's been unfair for years. We feel more people, there was a movement at one hand to eliminate it. We feel that more people are going to migrate into 9-hole. The people that don't play as much, that don't feel like playing 18 holes, but feel like playing golf, want to get out and play 9 holes. We feel like more people will migrate to that membership. So we took it down. And so we think a lot of the moves we made, I mean, I know that most of the community trusts me. Over the last 3 years, I've demonstrated, I think, to the community.
They trust you probably more than that board. Not personal.
But the board, like Linda said, the Finance Committee, it's made up of a group of residents. They have gone through all the line by line, we've defended every single item. The board, obviously, is made up of residents. We've defended every line in the budget's defended. Everyone has an explanation or a calculation to defend it. And I think, like Linda said, and like Janice has said, and today, we're professionals. I use the golf staff, the food and beverage staff. There was a lot of questions about why food and beverage revenue with this new bar, why we weren't blowing it all up. We were aggressive in golf. We chose to be that because we feel that was a good call, because we feel there are people out there with the lower prices that are going to come back. With food and beverage, the bar is new right now. We don't know that this trend is going to continue with 3 deep at the bar. So I told Paul and Mark and Matt, chef, I said, no, let's don't get aggressive with the food and beverage budget. We're already being somewhat aggressive with golf. Let's keep it flat. And hey, if right now we have 10 less weddings or 10 less major functions that we have on the books than we had last year. So it's not the time to be aggressive with that department. So we weren't. We kept it flat. So because the board had questions, particularly about some of the alcoholic beverage sales. But it's just, we don't know. It's just best guesstimate, and we're 3 months out guessing what's going to happen in 2011. We've been much better than the federal government guessing, but but no, think about it. I mean, think about, what the government has to do and how broad that is, and how they're, they must project what they're going to do, their spending and things like that. I mean, we do basically the same thing, only we're zero-based.
They got a big treasurer.
Well, no, we're zero-based. It's break even. We can't budget a loss, which the board did. The board before I got here had a budgeted loss of $80,000.
But I won't pursue it anymore. I just, my last line to the letter says, I hope I am wrong.
Good.
I hope I am.
I hope you are
We
too.
do too.
Now, forgetting that, one little point I want to bring up. A neighbor of mine said to me, and you can throw this out, why can't they have the seasonal instead of October, November, December, January, February, March? Why can't they have their 6 months and say this particular person was January, February, March, and April, and let me get that right, and November, December.
What it
He
is.
says, or the reverse, he leaves in March, and he can't play in October without paying.
We talked about a flexible.
I wonder if that is a solution to get a seasonal back.
In the past, we've talked about a flexible seasonal program.
Right.
And the monitoring of a flexible seasonal program is extremely difficult for the range people and for the golf staff.
Yeah, you
So-
probably have to put the months they play on their sticker.
We talked about a neon, is there a neon pink? But that was the color I proposed to put on the side of the cart with the month to month
You'd have to put all 6 months that they were bought.
that they would buy. And
It's not.
How many people you think we'd be dealing with?
It's hard to say. We have 100 seasonals.
we have
I mean,
100.
if it was 20, would it be worth the efforts to get that money?
They still play.
Well, I think that what they do exactly what you said. They just pay in October.
Yeah, but they won't sign up for the seasonal. This guy says, I'm not signing up for the seasonal because I only get 4 months out of it. Well, 5 months, because I'm gone in March, so I don't get to play in April. And then I come back early October and I gotta pay to play.
Well,